Hello, YouTube communicators. In this video, I am going to define empathy. I'm going to answer the question, what is empathy? We hear a lot about empathy. We're told it's very important. Some of us are told we don't have enough of it, but we're not always sure exactly what it is. It sort of has to do with being concerned about other people, being able to sense other people's emotions. But today I want to give you what I think is the best and most complete definition of empathy that I've encountered. I'm Bruce Lambert from howcommunicationworks.com. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. So, empathy is, I think, the most basic and fundamental of all communication skills. I think all other communication skills, aside from maybe basic mastery of language, rely on empathy. But it's one of those words that we use so much, and yet if we're pressed to define what it means, not all of us can define it very well. So I recently came across this great book called The Art of Empathy by Karla McLaren. I'll put a link to the book in the description. I highly recommend you read it if empathy is a topic you're interested in. And it offers both a single definition of empathy, and then it talks about the 6 most essential aspects of empathy, and that's going to take up the bulk of the video. The main definition and 6 essential aspects of empathy. So let's get right into it. What is empathy? Well, Karla McLaren says empathy is a social and emotional skill that helps us feel and understand the emotions, circumstances, intentions, thoughts, and needs of others such that we can offer sensitive, perceptive, and appropriate communication and support. That's a mouthful. So we'll come back to that, but let's see some key characteristics of it. A social and emotional skill. So it's a skill. It can be learned. If you've been told that you don't have enough empathy, you've come to the right place. You can learn empathy, and I plan to make a bunch of videos about how to respond empathically. It helps us feel and understand. So there's the feeling part, the sort of emotional part, bodily part almost, and then there's the understanding, the cognitive part. Of empathy, and it helps us understand both emotions, but also circumstances, intentions, thoughts, and needs, their inner mental life, and their perspective. So empathy is not only about feelings or emotions, it's also about people's internal states and their perspectives, such that we can offer sensitive, perceptive, and appropriate support. So what good is empathy if we can't take effective action to comfort people, to soothe them, and to meet their needs? So I think this is a great definition of empathy, and I want to take on its individual parts. So McLaren says empathy has 6 essential aspects, and we'll define each of those briefly. The first is emotional contagion. This is, I think, what I think most people think of when they think of empathy. We think of the woman on Star Trek, The Next Generation, the empath who could feel other people's emotions. So emotional contagion is about being able to feel other people's emotions, being able to identify other people's emotions. So this is a critical aspect of empathy, but there's much more to it than that. So some of us have only that, and some of us are so empathic, we feel other people's emotions so strongly that those emotions overwhelm us. We can't be very effective at empathic responding if we're totally overwhelmed by other people's emotions. But emotional contagion is an essential aspect, the ability to feel what other people are feeling, or to recognize their feelings by their nonverbal behavior, their signaling, and so on and so forth. Which leads us to the second essential aspect of empathy, empathic accuracy. This is the ability to accurately identify what other people are feeling. So there are only a handful, maybe 6 or 8 or 10 basic emotions. I'll make another video about that eventually. But they can shade into one another, and it's important when we're empathizing with people to be able to tell the difference between anger and frustration, between excitement and joy, between grief and consternation, or whatever it might be. So empathic accuracy is the ability to accurately identify what other people are feeling. Not just to feel it, but actually to identify it and reflect it back to them. And it's not just their emotions, but it's also plans, goals, intentions, etc. And to do so accurately, sort of an accurate map of the other person's internal mental state. The third essential aspect of empathy is emotional regulation. Emotional regulation means our ability to handle our own emotions. So when we think of empathy, we often think of the other person's emotions and our ability to deal with the other person's emotions. But fundamentally, there's that expression, charity begins at home. Well, empathy begins at home. You can't be effectively empathic unless you have a handle on your own emotions, unless you've done the work of maturing into an adult who can understand their own emotions, who's come to grips with their own difficult emotions, who can tolerate and identify your own emotions. And then when you have intense emotions, you have the ability to regulate them, to tune them down, to be able to keep your composure even when you're feeling intense emotions. That's emotional regulation. And if you can't regulate your own emotions, you often can't effectively deal with other people's intense emotions because they bring up such powerful emotions in you that you lose control and you lose your ability to effectively help other people. So the third essential aspect, emotional regulation, the ability to regulate and control the intensity of your own emotions. The fourth essential aspect, perspective taking. So perspective taking is a fundamental communication skill all of its own. It's about the ability to see the world through the eyes of the other person, to walk a mile in their shoes, to try to understand what would it be like if I were in their position, if I had just been fired, if I had just had a death in my family, if I had just made a big mistake at work, if I had just been broken up with or gotten bad news, or if I had just gotten a diagnosis of a serious disease. Perspective taking is the ability to use our own life experience to project ourselves into the position of the other person, to try to understand not only what they're feeling, but what they might need, what they might be expecting, what they might be thinking, the reasons for their feelings, the story they might be telling themselves, and so on. That's perspective taking, and helps prepare us to take action. The fifth essential aspect of empathy is concern for others. So the first four are sort of about skills, the ability to feel other people's feelings, to identify them accurately, to regulate our own feelings, to see the world through the eyes of another person. But the last two are about our ability to take action. So the fifth is concern for others. This is a sort of a character trait or disposition. We have to care about others. I guess we can imagine an evil genius who had all the other aspects of empathy, but didn't care about other people. Or, maybe a narcissistic person who had the skill to manipulate other people, but didn't care about other people. So concern for others, the affirmative desire to be compassionate, altruistic, is part of empathy. We can't just understand other people's emotions if we're inclined to ignore them or not care about them or discount them. Concern for others is an essential aspect of the overall picture of being an empathic person in the positive sense that we normally think of the word. And finally, perceptive engagement. This is the second of the sort of action aspects of empathy. Perceptive engagement is the ability to take effective action to meet other people's needs. So we have to have the skill to see what other people want and need, the concern, that's the motivation to do so, and then the ability to actually take action to meet each other's needs. So McLaren talks about being able to engage, for example, if someone is grieving, to be able to engage in consolation, not just compassion. Compassion is sort of the ability to feel what they're feeling. Consolation is an affirmative action you take to comfort another person. So that's it. From Karla McLaren's fantastic book, The Art of Empathy, both a definition of empathy, which is, I think, comprehensive, and 6 essential aspects of empathy. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll return to these concepts repeatedly and try to give you examples of how we put empathy into action in terms of what are the communication skills that allow us to say the right thing when we're exercising our perceptive engagement and trying to respond empathically to people that we care about or people that we work with. If you like this kind of video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. This is a new channel and I really need to hear from you. So one of the most valuable things you could do to help me stay focused and give you content that you like is to write me a comment at the bottom. Was this useful to you? Was it not? What would you like to hear about? So thanks a lot. Subscribe, like, share this with your friends, and come to howcommunicationworks.com and sign up for more content if you'd like to. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you soon.